What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, I had to talk about this. I've seen a lot of chatter back and forth on YouTube and some of the boxing forums, so I figured I'd give my take. That's on Brandon Rios versus Manny Pacquiao. So, if you guys look at this picture of Brandon Rios, you will notice one thing, and if you follow Brandon Rios' career in the sport, you'll notice that he's come up in weight the last couple of years. He's moved up quite a few times as documented in the 2 Day special on HBO, he has had trouble making weight at times. So, my point being, him moving up to 147 might actually benefit Brandon Rios. He's still younger than Pacquiao. Brandon Rios, again, a person who struggled to make 135 and had to move up to 140. And I heard he had trouble making 140 in the Rios versus Alvarado rematch. Um, so him moving up to a more natural weight is probably more beneficial to him because in his training camp, that means he can focus on training, a game plan, a strategy for beating Pacquiao. So that's one thing that I feel a lot of people have not considered. Second thing, people love to relive their glory days, and I think they're doing that a little bit with this particular fight. I see this as being a good matchup based on the timing and the circumstances. There's some variables. On paper, Pacquiao should absolutely slaughter Brandon Rios. He's too slow, he's too stationary, no head movement. Um, he's more one dimensional. He's not ever fought at 147 before. Statistically, on paper, Pacquiao has this in the bag. However, I don't think everyone's considering all of the variables in this fight. They keep comparing it to Margarito, but Margarito's his own person. Margarito was off of a loss from Mosley. He got destroyed by Mosley. Margarito was 32, I think, when he fought Pacquiao. He's older than Brandon Rios is going into Rios versus Pacquiao. And most importantly, Pacquiao hadn't received a devastating knockout punch that knocked him out cold, and he needed smelling salts to wake him up prior to the Margarito fight. He still had momentum, he still had supreme confidence, and he was still on his win streak. However, the times have changed and the tide has changed with Pacquiao. So, realistically, this is the perfect time for Brandon Rios, if ever, to pull an upset. He's going to be fighting in an Asian populated country, Macau, China. Pacquiao's Filipino, but guarantee the Asian community will go out to support Pacquiao more than Rios. And he has the opportunity to pull the upset of a lifetime. And I'm just surprised that nobody, I guess, based on stylistically, is giving Brandon Rios much of a shot. Again, on paper, Pacquiao should demolish him. I'm not a fool. I'm not blind. I'm not biased. But I think Pacquiao is for the taking for the reasons I mentioned. One, Rios is moving up in weight, but that looks like it'll be an easier weight for him to make. He's already started training, so it looks like he's taking this serious. And even if you look at these pictures that I posted for this video, you'll notice Brandon Rios in some of the lower weight classes that he struggled, as documented in the 2 Day special. He had problems making those weight classes, and it shows his skin complexion. He looks very translucent and almost ghastly, like he's sick, like he has something. If you look at his cheekbone, his face looks really sunken in. Versus this is a recent photo of him training for the Pacquiao fight, and his face looks fuller, and it looks like more comfortable. He looks more natural. In this, he looks a little emaciated, like Christian Bale in The Machinist or some shit. So it could play out to Rios' benefit to be fighting at a higher weight class. And Brandon Rios still has some years in his career, even though he gets hit a lot. He's still younger. He's been in the sport less years than Pacquiao in terms of pro career. And Pacquiao does have his distractions, Bible studies and singing and Jimmy Kimmel, political, Congress, and all that shit. So Pacquiao does have his own detractors from the sport of boxing, whereas Brandon Rios, his whole livelihood, his whole life is still boxing. To my knowledge, Brandon Rios isn't a singer. To my knowledge, Brandon Rios isn't the mayor of Oxnard or anything like that. So, in my opinion, I definitely give Brandon Rios a shot. And it's really depending on what Pacquiao shows up and how he looks after a devastating knockout. Again, Brandon Rios has a chin, which is going to help him. I definitely see Brandon Rios taking some punishment um, as he works to try to outgrind and overpower Pacquiao or get in his shots. Brandon Rios is also excellent with cutting off the ring. Pacquiao's legs don't look like they once did. He's not as fluid. And again, some of you guys relive Pacquiao's glory days, and you don't really put it in perspective. Pacquiao has not had a knockout since 2009 when he faced Cotto. That's a fact. He has not had a knockout since then. Since that time, he fought Shane Mosley and dropped Shane Mosley, I believe, in the third round, and he wasn't able to finish Mosley. Now, I mean, you got to give Pacquiao credit. Mosley's never been stopped before, like TKO'd, and he's been in there with the much bigger Canelo. He's been in there with Mayweather. He's been in there with the Cottos, and he has never been stopped. So, I mean, you can't hold that all against Pacquiao. But Pacquiao, I mean, dropped him early when he was fresh, and he wasn't able to pull the trigger. If you look at Pacquiao's career, when has Pacquiao ever had his man hurt and wasn't able to finish him? Pacquiao's actually an awesome finisher when he has his person hurt. I mean, I know you can't knock everyone out, but that's something to consider. Another thing is, and actually throughout the remainder of the fight, neither fighter looked great or spectacular after that knockdown, in my opinion. Some people thought the Mosley Pacquiao fight was fixed. I'm not really here to debate that. Aside from that, Pacquiao has fought Marquez in the third fight. A lot of people thought Marquez should have won on the scorecards, but the judges didn't see it that way. Pacquiao fought Timothy Bradley and had Bradley hurt. Again, was not able to pull the trigger after having Bradley hurt early, and he let Bradley get his composure back, get his legs back, and go on to win the championship rounds. Bradley was also causing Pacquiao to miss probably more than I've seen Pacquiao miss in recent memory from one fighter. So Bradley was slipping punches and causing him to miss, and definitely stole the championship rounds. Whether you thought Pacquiao should have beat Bradley or not, Pacquiao didn't look spectacular in that fight. And then obviously in the fourth fight with Marquez, he had Marquez hurt, got overconfident, and he paid the price coming in and got knocked out. So really, it could be Brandon Rios' time. It's just funny to me that some people are giving Brandon Rios no chance. Again, he's very hittable. I think Brandon Rios showed a better, improved defense in his second fight with Alvarado as opposed to the first one. The first one, he was getting his head rocked back viciously. The second fight, his defense looked more solid. And again, I heard he had problems making weight for that particular fight. Not to make excuses. Mike Alvarado won fair and square, and Mike Alvarado is moving on to fight Ruslan Provodnikov in his hometown for that reason as a reward. Alvarado should have been afforded the opportunity to fight Pacquiao because he was the winner, but both fighters got one apiece, and I guess Top Rank thinks it's more lucrative for Brandon Rios, which it probably is, to fight Pacquiao, and they're doing it probably based on monetary gain as opposed to what's right and the fact that Mike Alvarado won the last fight. But anyway, I definitely give Brandon Rios a shot. He has the chin, so he's a durable fighter. He's a tough fighter. Brandon Rios himself has never been stopped. He only has one loss. He's younger. He's a pressure fighter. He digs to the body. He outworks and outgrinds. He has the conditioning to go 12 rounds. I mean, he went 12 grueling rounds with Mike Alvarado in their last fight. And I'm also hearing that Pacquiao says he wants to go toe-to-toe with Brandon Rios. So, I don't know. It makes for an interesting fight. Like I said, based on the timing, that's a huge, huge aspect. If you look historically at boxing, when fighters get dropped and knocked out in that fashion, it's really, really hard to come back from. Another thing, people keep saying that Pacquiao got knocked out before and went on to win titles in 8 weight classes. And you have to understand the sport of boxing. Pacquiao, when he got knocked out in the Philippines or whatever, early in his career, that was just it. It was early in his career. He was still young. When your body is still young, sometimes you're still growing. Pacquiao's always had a chin, but he went on and he was able to overcome. But that's a little bit more rare, and I think Pacquiao's youth aided in that process. Pacquiao is not as young, and in boxing, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it's like dog years. It's like these boxers age in dog years. These are grueling rounds, 12 rounds apiece, 3 minute rounds, and a lot of these fights, 10 rounds, whatever. And it has a lot of wear and tear on the body, especially Pacquiao's style. Pacquiao has an athletic style. He has a style to flurry, move, in and out. And the moment you lose some of that athleticism is the moment you're vulnerable. So, again, stylistically, Pacquiao has all the tools to beat Brandon Rios. Brandon Rios is too slow, too stationary, too this, too that. But we've seen even this year that styles make fights, and there's a lot of variables. Sometimes the younger fighter, even though he's on paper not the better fighter or doesn't have the style to beat the fighter, it can happen. And I'm just surprised people aren't giving Brandon Rios much of a shot at all. Most recently, one of the examples that comes to mind is Zab Judah versus Danny Garcia. If you look at it on paper, what Zab Judah brings to the table, especially a focused, sharp Zab Judah at home in front of his hometown crowd of Brooklyn, Danny Garcia should have been annihilated. He should have been like hung at the stake. Like, there's no reason style wise Danny Garcia should even stand a chance. He's slower than Zab Judah. He didn't have the experience in the championship level fights. Especially coming from some of you fans. Some of you guys said Danny Garcia ain't fought nobody. He fought an old, flabby, and sick Eric Morales. And he fought a no-chin, glass chin Amir Khan. That's what you guys were saying. So Zab Judah should have ran through him style-wise, because Zab Judah is very fast. Judah has power in both hands. He's a southpaw. He's experienced. And Danny Garcia also throws like wide looping punches, which is perfect for a southpaw, perfect for a fighter who is fast, like Zab Judah, just overall fast, and a fighter who has power and knowledge of the game and the sport. So Zab Judah should have pieced up Danny Garcia. He gave Garcia tough rounds later on, but Garcia pretty much dominated the fight until, I would say, maybe the last 3 rounds or so. Zab Judah mounted an attack and a comeback, and whatever reason, Danny Garcia was getting tired or whatever, he had to bite down and hold on, and he went to win a decision. So, again, style-wise, anything can happen in the sport of boxing. Like I said, Zab Judah should have killed Danny Garcia if you want to compare style for style, but sometimes youth and heart prevails, and I know that Brandon Rios has both of those things. Definitely has heart. He's definitely tough. He definitely has a chin, and he definitely has youth on his side. So let me know what you guys think. Does Brandon Rios have any shot at Pacquiao, or is it just going to be a Margarito Part 2? Is it going to be a lopsided fight, a wash? It kind of reminds me of Al Bundy. If you guys ever watch Married with Children, Al Bundy, he always had flashbacks about his days as a star football player. And then fast forward to the future, he has kids he doesn't like. He has a wife he doesn't like. He doesn't like his job. He's a shoe salesman, and he always reflects on his glory days playing football. And I think some of you guys are Al Bundy and Pacquiao's career, and you want to think of the Margaritos and the David Diaz's and the Josh Clottey, who is afraid to exchange, and the Oscar De La Hoyas and the Cotto fight. And you got to put it in perspective. You got to realize when these fights actually took place. Most of these fights happened 2011, 2009, 2008, 2007. Again, these boxers age like in dog years. That's quite some time ago. I don't even know, like, what was out in 2011. Okay, I did a little research to put things in perspective for you. So I want to assess when the last time Pacquiao's looked good. In my opinion, the last time Pacquiao looked good entirely, or I guess you could say dominant, would be in the Shane Mosley fight. He didn't look dominant in the third fight with Marquez. He damn sure didn't look dominant in the fight with Timothy Bradley because he was missing a lot. Um, and then most recently, he had good rounds in the fourth fight with Marquez, but ultimately he got knocked out. So that definitely wasn't dominant if you're on the canvas at the end of the fight. Um, so Shane Mosley was the last time I would say he kind of looked dominant or prime Pacquiao, where he had an opponent afraid to exchange, that kind of thing. And the Shane Mosley and Pacquiao fight was in 2011. And again, in my opinion, that still didn't look like vintage Pacquiao, having his man hurt early and not being able to finish him. Um, didn't look like vintage Pacquiao. But for the sake of argument, we'll use that. So for some reference points to put things in perspective, I will list some of the movies that came out the same year Pacquiao fought Mosley, which was 2011. Okay, so first, the movie Thor. As you guys know, they have a sequel, Thor Part 2, coming out. So that just further lets you know how far back 2011 it really was. Um, Another movie, Mark Wahlberg, Christian Bale, great movie. It's called The Fighter. It got some Oscar nominations. It's a boxing movie. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. Another movie, The Warrior, the movie Warrior with Tom Hardy and Nick Nolte. Great film. I definitely love this film. I watched it on Netflix, and it's a great film. And just since then, I believe Tom Hardy's been in Dark Knight Rises. He played Bane. He was in the movie Lawless, and I think he did a movie with like Reese Witherspoon. And that's just to put it in perspective. These are like movies that came out the last time Pacquiao looked good. Another movie with Ryan Gosling is a movie Drive. I love this film. It's an excellent film. I didn't expect much going into it, and it was kind of like a sleeper hit. So just to put it in perspective, that's a chronological timeline of other things that actually took place in 2011, the last time Pacquiao looked good. So again, my question is, Brandon Rios, does he have a shot at beating Pacquiao, or is it going to be a Margarito 2, a foregone conclusion that Pacquiao, based on style, will annihilate Brandon Rios? Leave a comment, let me know what you think. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.